Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable on Jefferson College TV, JCTV. I'm Matt West, and alongside is Steve Davis, my co-host.
Welcome, everybody.
And we're going to take a trip back in time to the 1950s, or 1950 it is, and talk a little bit about the Korean War and demonstrate both Steve and my total ignorance of that period of time.
And the sad part is, Matt, I don't think we're alone in that area. I just want to let our viewers know how this program today came about. I was just thinking one day, and I don't know, we're talking about the Iraq War or whatever, and it dawned on me, and like I said, I like to consider myself semi-intelligent and a student of history.
Semi.
Yes, so I clarify that.
All right.
And I thought, if I asked the general public, name me someone you know or heard of in World War II. Almost everyone can answer, oh, well, my grandfather or my father or something. And I said, well, do you know anyone who was in Vietnam? And we also, well, yeah, there's a person down the street or a friend. And even in the Gulf War, Iraq War. But I said, does anyone know anybody who was in the Korean? Now, here's the question, conflict or war?
Well, let's start by introducing our guest. To my side is Herman Westridge. How are you, sir?
Pretty good.
And this Korean War, I'm going to call it a war, this Korean War started in 1950. How old were you at that time?
I was about 21 years old.
Okay. Let's say hello to Bill Siboka. Siboka?
Siboka.
All right. I got it pretty good. How old were you when this started in 1950?
About 20.
About 20 years old? Okay. So I'm going to throw it back to you, Herman, just here first. This thing starts. Where are you and what's going on with your life?
Okay, I was at home working on the farm with my parents, and when the war broke out, I was drafted and sent to Fort Leonard Wood for 14 weeks of basic infantry training.
You're still a very young man, and maybe you were on a farm, so I'm sure you shot a gun before. But the 14 weeks doesn't seem like a lot of time to prepare you for this.
But that's what we had, 14 weeks of infantry training, and went home on 2 weeks leave, got on a train, Union Station, St. Louis, out to California on a ship over to Yokohama, Japan. Went on a train trip there down to the southern island of Japan, Kyushu. And we did some processing at Camp Sasebo, and then it was an overnight trip from Camp Sasebo over to Busan, Korea. Got there in the spring of 1951. And
what unit were you assigned to? What was your job or the job of the unit?
At the time, I wasn't assigned. And when we got there first, they just said, well, you guys been on leave for a while and traveling and all this time. You need a refresher course. So they put us on, so you need a 5-day refresher course. So the third day out there in this refresher course, they said, hey, we're getting hit hard up there on the front line. We need you up there. So they pulled us out and hauled us on up there to the division rear. And then I got assigned to the 24th Division, which is this here, the 21st Regiment in the H Company. And H Company was a heavy weapons company. And our job was to support the 2nd Battalion, which consisted of E Company, F Company, and G Company, and we were H Company. And I was assigned to a mortar platoon, 81 millimeter mortar. And we had 4 guns. And there was another platoon with 30 caliber machine guns, another platoon with 57 recoilless rifles. And
so these are pretty good sized guns, these mortar guns.
Yeah, the mortar. Yeah, they were 81 millimeter diameter.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
And they were like about 15, 6 inches long.
But your job was supporting all the troops in front and everything like that.
Right.
You had to be very accurate.
They had quite a battle when we got there, and we were just firing away, and we finally, the Chinese and North Koreans evidently were on their way down to push us out of there. But we finally turned them around and went up north. And in going up north, I remember going through this valley, and it was just loaded with dead Koreans and Chinese and even oxen and things that they had used to pull down their equipment, and just all kinds of carnage. It's unbelievable that the stuff that we had eliminated, in other words, went on up through the valley. And I remember, but the second night up there, we had 4 mortars in our platoon. We had one gun pointed like that way, one this way, one that way, which indicated to me, hey,
We don't know.
they must be all around us, you know. But we kept our fingers crossed, and next day we just went on up further. And it's amazing how things worked out. Sometimes it's hard to understand for us, you know, the position we're in. I guess the higher ups knew what was going on. But anyhow, in the spring, it was what they call the monsoon season, and they had a lot of rain over there, just enormous amount of rain. Summertime was pretty much like it is around here, and the wintertime was exceptionally cold, like 20, 30, 40 below zero.
Ooh.
And I remember this one time I was assigned to this one platoon, the rifle company that was, I had to back up a little bit. About a few weeks after I got there, I was made a squad leader. And
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
well, you feel like
All right,
you've done something. Yeah. But anyway,
You're a squad leader. You go first.
as a squad leader, one of my jobs was to be a forward observer for the 81 mortars. That was the bad thing, I guess. You want to talk about that. But anyway, I would go with one of the 3 rifle companies, E, F, or G, and I would direct fire wherever they needed it. You know, I'd have a map with me and a compass. I'd shoot the azimuth to the target.
We didn't have our GPS systems back in those
Not
days,
really, not
computer-directed.
yet.
Now, I've heard a compass has this thing that spins. I'm not sure how, but anyway. Go
But
ahead, go
anyhow,
ahead.
I would communicate by radio back to the fire direction center at the mortars and tell them where the target was, you know, on the map. And it would usually take about 3 rounds, take one gun to zero in. And after it zeroed in, then all 4 guns would fire away, you know. And so that was my main job over there, was being a forward observer.
Okay.
And
Well, let's throw it over to Bill, and let's back up again here. 1950, summer of 1950, this war breaks out. What are you doing? And
Well, I was working for Marlowe Coil in machine shop. I'm a tool die maker.
Okay.
All my life. And I got drafted into Army in 1952.
Now, how old were you when you got drafted?
Well, I was 20, something like that.
You didn't worry about when you were 18 and 19, think, oh my God, they didn't draft me, I missed it?
yeah, well, just a little bit too young for World War II. And
Right.
same for you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You were a little too young for World War II,
My
so.
brother got killed in World War II in Germany.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So,
So-
you get drafted?
I got
Where do
drafted.
you go? Where's your
Yeah.
training?
I went from St. Louis down to in Arkansas to
Camp
I think the
Chaffee.
name of that camp down there. Anyway, I was inducted down there. Then we came back to St. Louis. Then went to Camp Atterbury, Indiana, 30 miles south of Indiana, Indianapolis.
And how long was your training?
About 16 weeks. And we trained for everything.
You weren't as quick as Herman. It took you 2 weeks longer to learn it.
Slower. We tried everything. We tried bazookas, rocket launchers, BARs,
Yeah.
mortars, and this old colonel, you didn't walk on rocks across the creek. You waded the creek. You had to wade it. Anyway, then they had pop-up targets. They would pop up, and you're supposed to shoot these targets as they pop up here and there. And that's why we practiced on that. And then from that, after I got on with basic training, then they sent me from St. Louis. We flew to, because we could go by train. To give us money to go by train would take 4 days to get to Seattle, Washington, or take an airplane. So we took an airplane, took 16 hours back in them days.
Sure.
And up, we're going over the mountain, that thing would drop like 20, 30 foot whenever you go over a mountain. And
Was that your first time on an airplane?
Right.
Oh boy! All right.
And we landed in Seattle, Washington, and so then got in Seattle, Washington. It rained a lot up there, and we stayed there a couple of days, and then we got on a ship. They gave us a couple of cookies when we got on the ship, and we was 17 days on the ocean. This is in like January, and 17 days out there, and we were down in the bottom bunk, bottom of the boat, and the next morning I got to go to the bathroom, and the bathroom was up front of the boat, and people were laying all over the floor like hogs. They were so sick they couldn't stand up.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just stepped over them and went to potty, did my job, and then I had to go from there up to the top deck to eat. So when I got up there, them guys were standing in line. They smelled some food. They dropped back. I just move up one. And I don't know where I got up there.
So you could have been a sailor. The high seas weren't a problem for you.
No problem. You could look out and see nothing but just water, all you could see.
But let's just, and we'll get back to your story in just a second, but Steve, just imagine this, because we think of ourselves as kind of isolated in mid-Missouri. You know, we might travel here or there. You know, you get a bunch of young men, never been on an airplane before, 16 hours to Seattle, never been, you know, they might have been on a boat fishing, not on the high seas.
Not a ship, huh?
I mean, I don't know what was going through your mind. I mean, you take this dramatic flight, you're on the high seas, you've never been in the ocean before, and let me tell you, I've been out there where there's nothing but water, and it is a little scary. You know, in your mind, you're saying, you know, I thought this boat was big when I got on it, but now that I'm out here, it ain't that big. So
you can only see so far, but you had a railing, you had to stand up to eat, and every time my plate would come by, I'd grab something out of it, and then go this way, that way, and I'd grab something. The water was so rough, it was like in January, and.
So when you made it to Korea, what time of the year was it? Was it cold? Was it hot?
Well, it was in winter time. I didn't go straight to Korea. I went to Japan,
Okay.
Tokyo, Japan. And there, went up to Camp Hogan, Japan, the far north. From there, when I got there, they said, we're going to send you down to the motor pool, take a test to be the captain driver. I was in D Company, heavy weapon. And they said, we're going to make you a captain driver if you pass the test. So I went down, took the test, I passed the test. So I had to go for the captain, and I got my license, insurance, and everything.
Now, I got to ask you a question here, Bill. What kind of test do they give you? Can you start the Jeep and shift the gear? I mean, what kind of test did you have
first
to
they had
go
to make
through?
sure he didn't have motion sickness, and since he wasn't sick on the boat, they figured he'd be all right.
But no, I had I was working in a body shop before too, and I had a 41 Chevrolet. I got my driver's license in 1948, and all I had on was William J. Saboko, and outside. And
So was that your job then, driving?
driving, and they want to make me a squad leader. Well, before that though, we went up north in Japan, learned how to ski. Well, it gets 6 foot deep. Snow gets 6 foot deep.
And now we're just show on the screen here. This is Bill with his Jeep. So here's the picture.
Yeah, we have a picture of
We're
you
gonna
with your Jeep. I didn't realize skiing lessons was part of the Korean.
So we left the Jeep there, and we took a train up there.
Yeah.
And
So you know how to snow ski, or you learned how to snow ski?
well, yeah, you had to have snowshoes on or skis, and when you dug around the foxhole, it was over your head, and down on the ground, and had to have snowshoes, like tennis racks, or skis. And what they had was like a Jeep with a track on, and had a rope tied on, and they pull you around, and you learn how to ski. And then from that, they gave us what they call a hakio, like a canoe, like a fiberglass. And 2 guys pull it, and then one guy had to tail it, because you go around a hill, it would slide around a tree.
Now, when you arrived in Korea, you were also, did you go to Busan, southern Korea, very southern when you first arrived?
Yeah.
Was there much of the war in that part of Korea, and how were you received by the locals, the actual, I guess, South Koreans that were there? What was their impression of American soldiers?
I remember one particular incident when we landed in Busan, We got off the ship, walked through the town there to get loaded up on the 6-bys. And the people were lined up all along and waving at us, you know. And there's one little kid standing there, he was saying, GI #1. And that really stuck with me forever. And I think most of the people felt that way. That was one good thing about Korea. But
They wanted to help.
yeah.
They were afraid of their northern neighbor, and you know, so obviously they welcomed you. But again, it's completely different environment.
For sure.
You know, did you ever have any like food sickness and that kind of stuff, or did you just ate rations all the time?
We ate sea rations primarily.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I ever ate any Korean food.
Well, that's where I want to talk to
never-
Bill here.
Who has the official chopstick?
Bill brought us in the official chopsticks from Korea, and I was just commenting how heavy these are. These aren't the modern, 2000 made in Japan lightweight.
No.
These are.
And they're made out of like some type of acrylic. They're not wood.
And the
some type of
detail on
plastic.
them. So, Bill, did you get it much? I mean, I've eaten a lot of Asian food, East food, and I've never quite understood what exactly is Korean, other than cabbage. So, what was the food like?
Well, I tell you what, whenever we left Japan, left out there on LST, and I would trade my food for Korean China rice. I like their rice because it sticks together.
Sticky
And-
rice, yes.
And I liked it. That's why you use chopsticks, because it sticks together. You can pick it up, you know. And I always didn't like the sea rice too well. So anyway, we landed in Busan. And Busan, then we went up north farther, up Daejeon, Nansan, Junsan, and Incheon.
But I got curious on the food. You went to Arkansas before you left, so you always had some good Southern barbecue and all this down here. But when you went to Korea, did you ever have a chance to have Korean barbecue?
No. No. They hung out dogs and cats and ate them.
Well, that's what I was asking. Is that true? I mean,
That's true. I've seen them have dogs hanging out drying, cats, and anything they could eat.
Yeah.
And I was driving for the captain, and then my job was to take the garbage, and we'd dump it out in the field, and they'd be out there picking it up off the ground, eating it.
well, now, since you drove for a captain, I guess the captain's life circle probably was a little better than just the average enlisted man. Did you get to sort of like piggyback along with the captain and get his lifestyle, where poor Herman out here is in the field?
With a pair of binoculars and a compass, he's out there in the field.
Well, the captain told me, he said, "Bill, I'll make you a squad leader if you be sergeant." I said, "No." I said, "I'll take corporal, and wherever you go, I'll go." So I made it back without a scratch.
Well, that's
I
good.
got a nervous stomach, jungle root on my feet, and don't hear too good, but I didn't get my head blowed off.
Well, you talk about, and maybe I'll ask Herman this. You came home after the war. We've all heard the stories about how, like, the Vietnam veterans were received and how they came back. What was the reception for the Korean War veteran when you came home?
I think it varied depending on what area you lived in. I'm from a small community, Scott County, southeast Missouri, and most everybody in that vicinity knew me, and they were really curious what went on. And I had a lot of relatives there, and they were really curious what was going on. But the thing that probably irritated me was the media, the newspapers, and the politicians had very little to say, We just came home and just went to our jobs and like we hadn't even been gone. But it really didn't bother me that much, but it was a little irritating that they did not consider that as a major war. And here, I've got the statistics here. There are 54,000 killed in Korea, 103,000 wounded, 8,000 missing in action, 7,000 prisoners of war, and only half of them survived. So course, North Korea is a little bit worse. They had 500,000 deaths, and Chinese had 1 million deaths. So we played heck with them too, but
Well,
I guess what I'm getting at, why wasn't the media more involved?
Yeah, and I've just read stuff, so I got to go with what I've read about it. But by the end of World War II, it was almost like the story's been told, everybody's home, and there was a fatigue when it comes to
I agree.
Boys overseas, and you come back home, and and we're going to ask you what happened with your reception, but I remember talking to one vet who said, I came home and ran into a neighbor of mine, and he said, "Where you been?" It's like,
Didn't even know you were gone.
Yeah, he was gone for a couple of years.
Yeah.
What do you mean, where have I've been out of the war,
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was, what was going on.
I agree. I think they were so tired of World War II. It lasted 4 years. A lot of people got killed and everything, and they just did not want to think about another war. And I think that's one of the reasons that it never was war declared back then. They did not. They called the police action, and till later on, I think they finally admitted it. That it was a little more. They thought it'd be over by Christmas.
Until the Chinese came down. Well, I think that was a good time to take a quick break, Matt.
We'll take a break right after we asked Bill what his reception was like. What was it like when you came home?
Well, when I came home, it was kind of like Herman said. I was out of Washington County, and that's where my mom and dad lived. And I went into town, and like nothing happened. I was the only one there. Nobody else.
Did you wear your uniform? I mean, a lot of the World War II vets came back, and they would wear their uniforms around the town. Did you wear? Because here we got a picture of course, Bill, the dashing debonair gentleman, in his uniform coming home from the war. But around town, you were just Bill.
I'm just Bill.
Yeah.
Had a lot of girls who wrote to me. Had an Irishman. He was 28 years old. He couldn't read or write. And I used to write every letter to his wife, and he'd tell me to say this and say that, and I'd say, Art, no, I don't think you want to say that. And he was from Chicago.
Okay.
We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more. We'll talk a little bit more about Korea and these gentlemen's lives right here on JCTV.
You may not know their names, but the students who are helped through a Jefferson College Foundation scholarship carry thanks in their hearts. It's for the kindness that our contributors have shown. Make a difference in their tomorrows.
Education, the great equalizer. It doesn't just mean you get more knowledge, it means you improve your quality of life.
Give to the Jefferson College Foundation today.
It's like going to Harvard in Jefferson County.
Students have the best education possible.
Top-notch education.
Quality education is a 10.
I love the fact that Jefferson College is so close to my home.
It's great. I love it. It works for my schedule.
The housing is incredibly convenient.
Class schedules are very convenient for students.
I'm Stacy Self.
I'm Kimberly Clark.
I'm Nick Schaefer.
I'm Della Selman, and I discovered my future at Jefferson College.
Welcome back to JCTV. Today, during the roundtable, Steve Davis and I are talking about the Korean War, and what better way than to bring a couple of veterans with us, invite them to the show. And Herman, I want to ask you about we brushed on the topic of the cold weather, that it was really, really cold, and you experienced that firsthand, didn't you?
Yeah. It was in the winter of 1951. And I was assigned to go with this, it was just a platoon, which is like about 35, 40 people, to take this hill. And I was supposed to be a forward observer for that group. And it was in the winter time, probably 20 or 30 below zero. I didn't have a thermometer, but it was cold.
I just get chills when you say that. 20 to 30 below zero. And you don't have, they don't have the Gore-Tex and all this other modern stuff. They got a couple coats and that's about it. But anyway, go ahead. All right.
And the snow on the ground about 3-4 inches. And we went out to this hill that we were supposed to take way before daylight. We waited for daylight out there. And So I got the orders to go ahead and take the hill. Usually when you in a battle like that, the automatic weapons, the 30 caliber machine guns and the Browning automatic weapons, they open up and they just spray the hill, and the riflemen and us, we crawl on up there below that. Well, the automatic weapons just started firing, and every one of them, the Browning automatics and the 30 caliber machine guns, froze up. It would not fire. It just quit firing.
Wow.
And called back to battalion headquarters and told them what happened. And they said, wondering what to do. And they said, well, we had 4 or 5 guys hurt by that time. They said, evacuate the wounded and get the hell on up the hill. That was the answer we had. But meanwhile, I had been calling to the mortars, you know, and I blasted the hill pretty darn good. You know, we really blasted the heck out of it. And that's the way we finally got up the hill. And we took the hill, and after the crazy thing about it was, we took the hill, and then they told us to come on back to the line, you know. We had a mile or 2 to get back to the line. It seemed kind of useless, but they just wanted us to go out there and see what was out there and knock them off that hill. They were using it as an observation point, we thought. And just a little while after I was back, it was kind of neat. They told me, hey, Herman, the general wants to come down and talk to you. So the general came by, and he wanted to know what I saw up on that hill, you know. And I told him what I can remember, and
A lot of snow. It's really high.
yeah, yeah. And he did compliment me. He said, "I tell you what, you put them mortars up there," and they were up on a hill back. They could see better than we could, you know.
Sure.
They were on a high hill watching it through binoculars, and he said, "I saw them bucking out. You were putting them rounds right where they were at. They were really." So I thought that was kind of neat that at least I got a little bit of a compliment of what I did.
Few and far in between, but that answer, you know, our weapons aren't working, what do we do?
Yeah.
Send the wounded back and take the hill. I mean, that was, you know.
I don't know if they didn't have their
classic.
guns lubricated properly or what, but this is a rifle company that I was with.
Yeah,
you know.
and if I was part of that rifle company, I don't know if I'd try and put the rifle next to my body and warm it up.
I don't know
what you do to try
deal
and fix
was,
something
but
like
that's
that.
actually what happened. They quit firing, every one
Wow.
of them.
So when you were hanging out with the captain, did he stay nice and warm?
Most of the time, but anyway, me and the captain, I didn't stand no reveille. First sergeant would take head count in the mornings, and I'd take it over and have the captain sign, turn into battalion headquarters, and I'd go to the front of the line, chow line, never stood in chow line, and then the captain would eat too, he'd go in front, and me and him would take off, we'd go up on some mountain top, and they had, back then they had 7-man helicopters in, now they got bigger ones, and they would bring them, bring them up on mountains there to them helicopters, and then take them one hill to another, here and there. And I was all over. Then the captain would take off and go someplace else, and another hill or whatever, and much more would come over.
Did you run into, or did you observe areas after a battle? Did you see some of that carnage? Some of the did you run into the prisoners of war that were being taken and things like that?
No, not really. We had one time Sigmund Rhee ordered to turn a bunch of prisoners loose during the war, and we shot them off the fence. They let them go free.
Wow.
And then
And you were shooting the prisoners?
that was a Korean prisoner, North Koreans.
Right, but Sigmund Rhee ordered them released.
As Sigmund Rhee did, he was the president.
Right, and then
He said they were good people.
so the Koreans released the Korean prisoners, and then the Americans shot the prisoners.
Right. And then,
Okay, Guantanamo, I think owes nothing to this one.
then we had a big prison camp, and if they took them on a work detail, I went one time when it was on a work detail, you have 2 prisoners to run GI. We have 24 prisoners and 12 GIs. And I was bringing up the rear, and this one guy decided he's going to stop and take a, and get out of line. I took a bayonet in his butt, and he got back in line, and he didn't have to go. He was going to break loose, and they'd all get away. So they didn't want to work, but my work details.
Well, that's, and I know you saw some. You had kind of mentioned it earlier. You had seen, as a result of the mortar attacks and things like that, you were mentioning not only bodies but also animals and everything else. So there must have been a couple times when you saw stuff that's just doesn't leave your memory.
No, I got one other story that it was like in the fall of '51, where our battalion had the orders to take this row of hills up there, and it was right after a lull in the fighting. I think they were talking at Panmunjom. I think we had kicked butt pretty well several weeks before that, and the North Koreans were trying to, hey, we want to talk. And all that did was give them time to dig in, the way I looked at it.
Sure.
And so we finally decided to take those hills. And when we got going on it, our battalion did kind of leapfrog. E Company go a while, and F Company, then G Company, just kind of leapfrog through each other. And we finally wound up taking the hill just about dark. We were up on top of the hill. And so things kind of slowed down then. And what I'm getting at is the next morning, things were kind of quiet. And they brought sea rations up for us, and was our food for the day. And so I checked my pockets, and I realized that I had all my food left from the day before. I'd forgotten to eat, and so I didn't need any food. But that's
well, I can't imagine, Steve, the emotions going through your body. I know when I'm like nervous and stuff like that, I don't eat. I mean, that's not a guide. And if you're engaged in battle and warfare and things like that, your adrenaline's going. You're trying to be very specific with what the job you're doing, because your job, what you're doing, affects so many other people. You can't let up.
Yeah.
And but still, I usually remember to eat.
Yeah, but we got pictures on the pictures that we're displaying here. Here's Herman in the front line, and we got prisoner of wars and the catch.
Sure.
I mean, you actually got to, I guess, interact. I mean, how were when you had a prisoner, a North Korean? I mean, what was the relationship to a prisoner of war to? I mean, Matt, unfortunately, he's a Hogan's Hero kind of guy.
But
well, it's kind of.
I mean, once they gave up, I mean, it did from there it went kind of smoothly. I mean, they followed your instructions.
We'd have people to take them back to the rear. They'd march them out and took care of them.
We got Bill here poking them in the butt with his bayonet.
I remember that same day, our company commander, he said, "Man, I have but one life to give for my country. If I'd be damned, I wished I had two. I'd give them one and get the hell out of here." And it wasn't over. Probably less than an hour later, we took off, went down the hill, and there's artillery and stuff coming in, mortars, and he got hit. And but he went back to a MASH unit. He was not he survived it. But I never saw the guy after that, but I often like to talk to him again.
Sure.
He's a captain, Durego was his name, but I never will forget what he said. I wished I had two lives. I'd give him one and get the hell out of here.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the ways that people can remember the sacrifice that both of you gentlemen did, and there have been some monuments that you want to start off with the national one?
Well, it took a while, but the country finally recognized the Korean conflict here with a memorial in Washington, D.C.
Right.
And Bill, you've been there,
Right.
and you've been around. I've seen all the monuments, and I've got to tell you, I've been, like I said, the Vietnam Wall. Right. The Korean monument to the Korean War is, to me, the most emotional
Yeah, it
of
is.
all. It's such a phenomenal structure.
Pretty realistic the way it is.
They're like 7 foot tall, stainless steel, and it will be coming up in the opening alert. And with Vietnam Wall, you go down in it, more or less. I've been both of them, and you go down into it. But ours is like coming up out of the woods into the opening.
And just walking there, I mean, it's like the eyes from the soldier, no matter where you look, it looks like there's a pair of eyes following you as you go through the Korean War. It really is an emotional, breathtaking monument.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be in Washington, D.C. when they dedicated that monument. It was in '95.
Yeah.
Just when they
I
dedicated
also carried an M1 rifle, and the captain carried a carbine and a .45 pistol.
And that's what is depicted in these soldiers here. They got their M1.
Oh, yeah.
The M1, I mean, there's an old
Old
tool.
reliable, unless it's 30 below.
Big bayonet.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit closer in Forest Park in St. Louis. I guess there's a couple benches as well.
Yeah, well, there's a memorial there, and just a little over a week ago, in fact, it was the 26th of July, we dedicated 4 granite benches with the names of the 4 chapters in this vicinity. One is Jefferson County, and then there's one in St. Louis, and one in Floreston, and one in St. Charles. And we got the names on different wording, and we dedicated just a little over a week ago up at Forest Park Memorial.
And there is a memorial, like a memorial fund too, for the Korean vets, that you raise the funds for these memorials.
Yeah.
Well, we do more or less ourselves, our own money.
We have this wall of honor. Maybe that's what you're getting at.
Well, if people wanted to, you accept donations for what you do for your chapter.
Sure.
So if someone said, hey, I wanted to contribute, I wanted to help somehow recognize the Korean War, there's your plug, gentlemen.
Right.
How do we get money to you?
Well, we
Talk to any AM vets or?
We have
most of the time.
We have a magazine that comes out, and we have all the addresses of all the chapters in that magazine, and it's called the Corvettes, is what it is. It's in Missouri. It comes out every 2 months.
Or we go to any VFW hall or something. Someone could direct us to your organization.
I don't have the address with me right now.
That's all right. That's all right. It's not that hard for us to look it up.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. We got to wrap it up, and we wish we could talk to you a little bit longer because this has been fascinating. I've certainly learned a lot, and I know Steve has. But it is really neat, and we thank you for your service. And
thank you,
gentlemen. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it, Bill, very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
You've been watching JCTV, The Roundtable. Stay with us. I'm sure there's a lot more coming up right here on Channel 21.